But Lewis and Clark said goodbye to Sakakawea. I'm sure that the goodbye from Meriwether Lewis was probably brief. We're not even sure if he made note of any goodbyes to Sakakawea, because remember, Meriwether Lewis had only been shot days before, and he was in great pain, and he wanted to get back to St. Louis. He was traveling on down the river, perhaps laying on his stomach or laying face down, or not necessarily face down, but he was probably in great pain from that wound that he sustained just up the river in that accidental shooting when Pierre Cruzat thought he was an elk. He was wearing elk skins, and so I suppose perhaps it was easy to mistake him for an elk when they were in those thick trees. William Clark, on the other hand, had a very difficult time, I think, saying goodbye to Sakakawea. He didn't say, I'll see you again. Perhaps he did. Perhaps he was confident that he would see them again, but he left the villages. But before he left our Hidatsa village, he said to Toussaint Charbonneau that he wished to take the little boy, Jean-Baptiste Charbonneau, now 19 months old. He wanted to take this little boy back to St. Louis. He had grown so fond of him. He wanted to take this little boy back to St. Louis, and he promised he would raise him as his own son. He promised he would provide for this young man's education. But Jean-Baptiste was only 19 months old, and he remained in the Hidatsa village, Awadikha, with his mother and with his father, Toussaint Charbonneau, and his young wife, Sakakawea. As William Clark was traveling into what is now the state of South Dakota, traveling on the Missouri River, he wrote that very long letter back, a long 2-page letter addressed to T. Charbonneau at the Minitati village. That is where he addressed it to Toussaint Charbonneau, who was back at Awadikha. And again, he asked him to bring his young boy to St. Louis. He again told him that he had become his friend. William Clark was so very fond of Jean-Baptiste Charbonneau. He was concerned about the safety of this little boy. He was concerned about the future of Jean-Baptiste Charbonneau. And because I think Toussaint Charbonneau had served the expedition, he had served as an interpreter, William Clark knew that he could still provide service to different tribes and to his office as he continued to engage in trade relations and treaty making, perhaps up and down the Missouri River. The Toussaint Charbonneau family remained here for several years. The farewell to Sakakawea was not a permanent farewell. I think perhaps even though William Clark felt something for this young man, to Jean-Baptiste Charbonneau, I think in his heart he really believed that he would see that young boy again.